Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. I am Abriel Johnny. My pronouns are she and her, and I am Cowichan and Tlingit, and I am the board chairwoman for United Indians of All Tribes Foundation. Thank you for joining us for our event today, our Native Life in the City, and the overarching theme of this year's gala is We're Still Here. And it's rooted in the perseverance. It's not only in the spirit of trudging onward against the backdrop of our second pandemic year, but it's also remaining Indigenous on our lands after centuries of abuse and erasure. And on behalf of United Indians, I am thrilled and honored to introduce our two powerhouse women as part of our community's online event here today. Um, First, we have Ava DuVernay here with us today, Academy Award nominee and Emmy and BAFTA and Peabody Award winner. Ava DuVernay is a writer, director, producer, and film distributor. Her feature directorial work includes the Oscar-winning civil rights drama, Selma, the Oscar-nominated social justice documentary, 13th, and the Disney children's adventure, A Wrinkle in Time, which made her the highest-grossing Black woman director in American box office history. In 2019, she created, wrote, produced, and directed the Emmy Award-winning limited series When They See Us. She is currently in production on Colin in Black and White for Netflix and Home Sweet Home for NBC, and in post-production on Queen Sugar for OWN and DC Comics series DMZ for HBO Max. She's the winner of the 2012 Sundance Best Director Prize for her independent film Middle of Nowhere. DuVernay amplifies the work of Black artists, people of color, and women of all kinds through her narrative change collective Array, and named one of Fast Company's most innovative companies. Thank you for joining us, Ava.
Thank you.
Also with us here today is Jana Schmieding, who is a true multi-hyphenate star on the rise, who is making her mark on the entertainment industry as an actor, writer, comedian, and content creator. A Lakota Sioux native, Jana has been a longtime educator and advocate, raising awareness around Native issues and bringing Native stories to mainstream audiences. Jana can currently be seen as the female lead opposite Ed Helms on Mike Schur's new comedy, Rutherford Falls. She also serves as a staff writer on the series, which launched on Peacock on April 22nd, 2021. The first Native comedy of its kind, the series will explore themes of identity, friendship, and how we define ourselves and relate to historical narratives. Jana was heavily involved in all aspects of the show, including down to the details of beading items for the wardrobe, props, and marketing departments. She's a graduate of University of Oregon. Jana has performed and directed improv, sketch, and solo comedy for over a decade in both New York and Los Angeles. One of her pilots brought her to the New York TV Festival as a notable writer. In addition to being passionate about Native visibility, she has also been a vocal advocate for social justice issues, namely body justice, all of which she discusses regularly on her comedy and writing. And Jana hosted the acclaimed Woman of Size podcast from 2017 to 2019, where she and guests discuss the way that we think and talk about our bodies. Thank you for joining us today, Jana. We're excited to have both of you both here.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for that introduction. It's so generous. I am so honored to be here and truly so excited to talk to you, Ava, and to call you by your name, Ava. this is something that I never imagined would happen in my career, and so I feel like I'm really I'm just extremely honored to be here and talking with you and having a conversation with you about our industry and about your work. So I'm going to just dive right in. Oh, I think you're on mute.
Let me say the feeling is mutual. I was really, really excited. And first of all, I'm so happy to be here. So thank you for the invitation and for including me and for creating this space. So thank you so much. And really was excited to speak with you because I was just tweeting about you the other day and about your show and how excited I am about the prospect of the native storytelling, kind of expanding to realms where traditionally has been, I won't say absent, I'll say purposely excluded. And so I was really excited when even before I knew that we would be speaking today, to know that you are multi-hyphenate like me, doing all kinds of things, but you do way more than I do. You do a lot more than I do. First of all, I'm not funny.
I doubt that.
It's true. I cannot act. There are a lot of things you do that I can't do. But so I'm excited to learn from you and talk to you today.
Oh, wow. Well, I've been following your work for years, and this is actually like a really wonderful time in my career to have a conversation with you. Not only because of some of your upcoming projects, but also because of Rutherford Falls and sort of, I feel like we're having a moment right now in television, specifically where Native people are finally taking up some space and having a voice. And I see that work really sort of following in your footsteps and the footsteps of those who came before us and in carving out a space for underrepresented voices in this industry specifically. So I'm going to just launch right into my first question and give some context as to why we're here today and frame our conversation. So our host, United Indians of All Tribes Foundation, has its roots in the untold story of the 1970 Fort Lawton takeover, in which hundreds of Native activists fought to reclaim their land in response to a lack of city support for a ballooning population of urban natives displaced by the Indian Relocation Act. After a month-long occupation of that former military base, these protesters secured the land on which United Indians' main building, Daybreak Star Cultural Center, now stands and provides essential services for those same urban natives today. This is just one largely untold story of Seattle. As Indigenous people, I know I have, but I think we largely run into these distorted historical narratives at every turn, in our schools, in our politics, and of course in entertainment. And thinking about your work, Ava, specifically the limited series When They See Us, which was extraordinarily moving for me as a former educator in the South Bronx and working with our like Black youth for 10 years and seeing the direct results of the corrupt criminal justice system and how it affects our students, our children. You created When They See Us, you wrote and directed. It's a razor sharp and compassionate retelling of the struggles of the young Black men at the center of the Central Park Five wrongful criminal case. What drew you to bringing their story to the screen?
Yes, well, thank you. I was always fascinated about the case. They were about the same age as I was when it happened. I think I might be, I'm the same age as Corey. So we were all the same age. And I remember being a teenager and hearing about it as a teenager growing up in Compton and Long Beach, and feeling very connected to it because they were my age. And hearing this word wilding. I remember I called a friend of mine, play cousin as we call it, in New York, and I asked, what is wilding? Like, we don't use that word. He was like, we don't use the word either. I think they're saying wilding, and I was like wilding out, like just out and about. And they said, yeah. So this word, which was a term that kids used, had been distorted and criminalized, and splashed across the front pages of mainstream publications associated with fear. And that stuck with me, like, wait, that word is now this word, and these kids. And so it was just always a case that fascinated me. So cut to, I don't know, maybe 6 years ago now, I get a tweet from one of the five saying, I love Selma, what's gonna be your next movie? CP5, question mark, question mark. So I was like, wow, this is one of these guys. Next time in New York, I'd really love to meet him. Not ever thinking it would turn into anything. I was so fascinated and drawn in by the depth of their passion for justice, not only in their case, but in other similar cases, that I got to know all five of them, and we decided to make the piece. And I'm very proud of it. It was a tough one, but it really speaks to the idea of reclaiming this master narrative. Who gets to tell the stories? And in that case, mainstream publications, primarily white journalists, primarily white politicians, conjured a story that fit the master narrative. These boys are bad, and they've done this thing. And we won't go through due process, truly. We won't really do what we say we do as a nation that believes in justice and dignity. We will go through the motions, and we will hang this on someone that we decide. And so, and a lot of the work I do, whether it's Selma or 13th or When They See Us, or even Queen Sugar or Wrinkle in Time, it's saying, you know what? You've told the story that way. I'm going to take it back. I'm going to tell it our way, and I'm going to give it back. And I think that especially when we're dealing around ideas of trauma, there's a lot of talk now about, let's not talk about Black trauma. Let's not show trauma. I really feel it's a reclaiming of the trauma, and it's giving it nuance and allowing there to be triumph and survival. And I think that's a part of my art practice, and a part of just, what I believe as a human being, walking around in this skin and this body, is my mission.
Yes, it was such a powerful series. I mean, it was both the kind of show that I wanted to binge, but it was so heartbreaking that I couldn't. And just like, and hit all of the important points about distorted narratives that just, it's so impactful. I think also as a Native woman, seeing your work and being able to relate to it so clearly, so vividly. You described it as being very hard and very challenging. Can you talk about some of the hurdles that you faced, not only in When They See Us, but some of your other projects? What have been some of those hurdles in getting those?
This guy, cool.
he saw the shoulder pad and he was like, that's what I'm gonna do.
that was cool.
Shazzy, oh, you're ruining my big day. Back to the important stuff. Oh yes, tell me about
about the tough parts. I mean,
the tough part.
These projects are always tough to put up. I just think, and there's systemic and industry-wide issues with the way that our work is made as people of color, as women. So that stuff's known. I think for me personally, When They See Us was the hardest thing to make for me as I was in New York, which is not my favorite place. I'm sorry, I'm from California. I was there for a very long time. I was away from family, away from home. Every single day I had to go in and shoot really tough stuff. So that's like 6 months of every day. And it was a large cast. So cast is moving in and out. And even on Selma, you have some days of tough stuff, but then you've got great days. This, I looked at the schedule and I was like, wow, every day is really, really tough stuff. And so getting yourself up for that, it was the largest cast I'd ever worked with, 176 actors, 114 speaking parts. I was the creator, I was the writer, it was 4 episodes, I was juggling, I mean, it was just like, I was like, oh my God.
Just so intense.
What am I doing right now? And so for it to come out as it did really changed my philosophy about work. Because a big thing that I had always said is, I had so much joy in my work. And I felt like the joy I felt in my work came out when you watched it in the work. Mm-hmm. And I did not feel joy making that piece. And yet the work still, it's not surrounded by joy, but there was a meaningful, meaty, really muscular feeling that you get after going through the journey of the show that I feel was worth the sacrifice.
Yes.
And so it changed my way. Everything, you don't have to be having a great time all the time. Sometimes it's worth going through a little pain or a little sacrifice to get to a greater good. And that's how I felt about that one.
That's so fascinating. It's true, because you do see you see the struggle. You see the struggle in the product, and it's like a hard won, not joy at the end, but a hard won release, like
Yeah, I think
like a catharsis.
release is a really good way to, you're right, that's a great way to say it. Because no, it's not joy. It's just got at the end, you just kind of exhale, like, okay, they're going to be all right, you know?
Yeah.
But the question is, those boys are going to be okay. But what about the millions of others? And that's what we invite people to think about.
So much of your work has driven me toward, you know, and a lot of my other learning has driven me toward more work and learning in abolitionist teachings, and I'm like very grateful for that, and especially this piece of art that you created that helps to just explore the people behind that issue, behind our criminal justice system.
Let that native cat enjoy room.
He's gonna be. Enjoy, everyone. I hope you enjoy my cat Shazi, which is the Lakota word for painted orange. Okay.
Love it.
I want to talk about Queen Sugar, one of my favorite shows. It's one of my favorite, I'll call it a DuVernay project. As a viewer, I'm not always drawn to family drama. Like, I don't really watch like This Is Us. I appreciate that I'm sure it's a wonderful show, and I love the actors, all of the performers, and the creators. But Queen Sugar is different. And one of the traits about the show that I find compelling is the way in which the Bordelon family's journey to reconnect and maintain a loving connection with their land and their community is a very similar paradox in which contemporary Native people find ourselves. When we watch Queen Sugar, we're watching the very realistic struggles and joys of a family trying to heal the wounds of intergenerational trauma, while also managing the many real injustices that directly impact their lives as Black people in what we now call America and the American South. I'd love to know what early conversations were like with the novelist, Natalie Bazile, or your producing partners, specifically how you worked to humanize these really big and heavy historical and social issues. Like, how did you come to helping us as...
Turn around, look at your cat right now. Look at it. Oh, he's good. He's good because he stopped right when you turned around. He's literally biting the plant off and trying to get the water out. It's awesome.
We're just like, I'm trying to have this very in-depth conversation about Queen Sugar, and my cat is poisoning himself behind me.
It was pretty good. But so talking with Natalie Bazile, yes, I got you.
Yes. So my question is, how did you, what did you realize in the development process when you were deciding, we want to tell this story, we want to expand upon the novel, and how you came to helping us as viewers, like, really see ourselves in this very specific type of family drama?
Well, it's so interesting, and I'm so happy you mentioned Queen Sugar, because I was fortunate enough to be invited by my friend Bird Running Water to his homeland in New Mexico, the Mescalero Apache Reservation. And I'm down there with them, and we're chilling, we're hanging out. Literally, the women watch Queen Sugar. And I was like, why? I wondered why they were connected to Queen Sugar. And they talked about it, about the extended family, and about, the Aunt Vi character. Like, everyone's kind of got that character. And it was something about the familiar structure, and seeing it with brown people of color, not the usual. When we usually see those kind of more sprawling family dramas, usually people of color aren't centered solely. And you're not really seeing the integration of the land that they live on, and how meaningful that land is to them, to this Black family, and how it's been passed through generations, and how they fiercely guard it. Now, every season we make them in fear of losing it, right? Someone's coming out, that tension. And there were some issues of the family, the generational aspects, the land, the POC part of it that for some reason really resonated. It brought me a joy that I cannot tell you, because so often, as people who are traditionally uncentered, we are made to feel that no one is interested in your story except people like you.
Yes.
And that's one of the things that I think your show is disproving, and that my show disproves, and that we have to continue to do. That we are not making films films and TV shows in the likeness of some mainstream dominant culture narratives. We are taking the medium of film and television. We are asserting our own voice, our own histories, our own legacies, our own language, our own style within the medium. And that, you don't have to be Black to like it, and you don't have to be Native to like that. And I think, we're in a time right now as artists. That's why I was an early advocate of the Netflix and the streaming models, right? Early, because it basically opened up the world to someone like me, someone who had been told again and again, even if you make a feature film, it's not going to travel overseas. I mean, Selma was seen very little, and Wrinkle in Time was distributed to even less countries. But
Wow.
13th, and When They See Us on Netflix, is in 190 countries in the native languages of those countries. And so,
Wow.
it is not native language, in the current language of those countries. And
Mm-hmm.
so the idea that that reach is possible, the idea that I can hear from people all over the world about the plight of 5 boys, four Black, 1 brown, and that is resonating with people from Mumbai to Sao Paulo to, Tokyo, is astounding. And it
Yeah.
proves the universality of the specific. You had talked about this specific family. But everyone's life, truly, I believe, has everything in it. But if you're lucky enough to live, even 20 years, right? You're experiencing, there's nothing that you're experiencing that is not experienced by another human being. It's
Mm-hmm.
just, and some of us have more happiness and some of us have more tragedy, but somewhere in your life, you have felt despair, you have felt fear, you have felt pride, you have felt it's the same feelings, right? And so the idea is, through Queen Sugar, is just to pour all those feelings into this Black family, and just play it out. I would never thought we'd have 6 seasons. We're shooting season 6 right now. It's I hope for you if it's supposed to happen, but it's astounding, and so really thrilled to hear you mention that you watch it.
Yeah, it's almost as if, settler colonialism has happened on multiple different landscapes and experiences, and that could possibly be a universal experience in our nation, at least, that we're all feeling the results of, and the experience of, and land theft, and removal from lands, specifically in Queen Sugar. I think it's so delightful because it's sort of it's coded as a family drama, but it covers this much bigger, this realm of like a greater social injustice, and the way that each character sort of navigates that space is like, oh God, it's just so brilliant. I love it so much.
Thank you. That's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to wrap a Snickers bar in a protein bar in a Snickers wrapper. Just looks like a family melodrama, but we're saying so many things. It's been a joy to work on it. I don't think the issues of kind of the issues of the land as it relates to this Black family, and when I think of it, in relationship to our Native brothers and sisters and kinsfolk, is there's so much when we talk about land, the land itself stolen from Native people, the labor on the land stolen from Black people, and the relationship between the two as it relates to our people's relationship to these spaces, the spatial relationship of this country, to look around the country and say, this is our land, for Native people, and for Black people look around this country and say, this is our labor, and neither is able to fully participate. is
Absolutely.
part of what that relationship is, and part of what we're hoping to express in the show.
Absolutely. I do want to talk about Sovereign in a bit. I'll touch on it a little bit in coming questions, but I want to ask you a very specific question. So we're coming into a time now when we have, Rutherford Falls. It's a sitcom. We will have Reservation Dogs also this year. It's a dark comedy, and eventually Sovereign. A
We
native.
hope. We hope.
We hope. I mean, just saying it's gonna happen.
Let's say it. Let's speak it in.
Will it?
Yes.
It's a native family drama, and where we're finally seeing native people on screen and not just native tropes. We're very used to seeing ourselves written by white folks, non-native folks, and now we have a kind of a new we're sort of having this like renaissance. I don't want to call it a renaissance, but it is a moment when we have native executive producers and people at the production level that can really call the shots and have a lot of touch on not only the writing and the crafting of the story, but also the production aspects. What tropes are you tired of seeing in film and television? What types of things are you just over? And how do you go about answering the call to eliminate them?
That's a great question. I think one of the tropes that really comes to mind for me, and one of the fears I have around this moment of, kind of native storytelling reaching the film, the television realm, is a trope that we battled and are battling a little bit less, but it took many decades. There would be these pops of you're probably too young to really remember it, but they would every 10 years there'd be a Black Renaissance.
Yes.
Every 10 years there'd be, it's Spike and John and Gina and Casey, and it's a Black Renaissance. And then 10 years later it's these people and it's a Black Renaissance. And it's like you can count the New York Times piece, you can count it down. You can count down, all of the news pieces and articles about it, like clockwork in the trades. If there was any cluster of Black folks doing anything that reached any critical mass, they call it a Renaissance. Also, whenever there was a Black hit, they'd be like, a surprise, waiting to exhale, a surprise. Well, was it a surprise? Because literally 6 times a year when a Black movie reached the top of the, box office, the next Monday in the trades, it would be like unexpected hit. And, is it unexpected because all the Black people were going? We said we wanted it, and we're going. We keep telling you we're gonna go. And so that's my fear. And that's a trope. Industry trope that I just want to be able to support in the safeguarding as it relates to native cinema and television, is that, as far as I'm concerned, if these 3 shows, 2 of them are already going, you're on the first, you've got another one, they're in production. Are they wrapped? I think they have
they're in production now.
A couple more episodes left.
Tulsa, yeah.
Couple of more episodes left. They're going it like they're doing it. We'll see if we get picked up. But that's 3 shows. That is. Can that be enough to propel, something so that native filmmakers and storytellers don't have to go through this Renaissance resurgence, but that we can take that and build sustainable, consistent growth, so that we can look back on this Zoom and say, we were celebrating 3, we're celebrating 2.5, okay? Look at us now. We're across the dial on every show. You can't have a network without having, some storytelling that reaches or speaks to this audience. And so, so that's the trope that I really want to get out of, is this idea that these bursts happen as opposed to an idea of this is a first. I mean, this is the beginning of something, not a birth. Yes. It's the beginning of something that will be consistent. And I just really want to see that language used more as it relates to these, because I'm already seeing it in some of the articles. It's like, these are cute. There are 2 of them. And
right.
no, how about We're open. This is a whole new way of telling story. What do you feel about it? How do you feel about that?
You know, my cat just did the jumping thing and it
He's very
triggered.
excited about it.
He's very excited about it. He has something to say, but I'm going to cut him off and say that I totally agree with you because um, something that our showrunner Sierra Teller Ornelas, who's Navajo and Mexican American, she has said in a lot of our interviews that we've worked on together. She says every single one of the Native writers in our room could go on to be showrunners, and that is her intention. She wants to build leadership in the room, and bring up a cohort, if you will, of eventual EPs. And I think this is such a brilliant way to go about it. And I see that you do that with your directorial staff on Queen Sugar. I'm sure you do it in all of your productions where you're constantly lifting up women and making it so that it's not a renaissance every time it happens. It's a continued linking arms and rising together as cohorts. And I wonder if that is some of the intent behind Array.
Yeah, it is. Thank you for asking. No, it absolutely is. Array is a disruptive entity. It is a narrative change collective that we founded 10 years ago. The idea that if I wanted to make my work and practice my art and have a voice, there's no smooth landing place for me in the industry as it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have to make it so. And by making it so, let's not just make it so for me, but let's make it so for others that come alongside me and behind me. And so in the same way that I'm entering doors that were opened by Julie Dash and Debbie Allen and others, keep opening these doors, but also not just that, building your own house. And so that's what Array is. Yeah, I work with the Academy. I work with Time's Up. I will work with disruptive entities all over the place. Also, though, my primary thing is building my own thing, right? And so I've really learned early on in trying to really address these issues, like, do I want to align myself with rehabilitating old institutions that, do I want to be dealing with reform? Not really. I'd rather be building something fresh that's built upon the principles that I believe and has a solid foundation, right? But is there value to disrupting these other organizations? Is there value to making sure that they're shaken up and that they have to think twice and that they have to reckon with and that they have to come along? Absolutely, that too. So we do both. But my primary love is Array. And taking up that space, we have a little 4-building campus in historic Filipino town where we deal with film literacy, not just about the filmmakers. I sat on the Sundance board for a long time, and I really respect the organization. But it is very focused on filmmaking. That's its mission. Mm-hmm. And our focus is on narrative change and not so much education and support for filmmakers and artists, but for the audiences, right? Mm-hmm. Because the audiences have the power. If the audiences want to see it, then it pushes the culture forward. The audiences support it. The audiences know how to watch a film with subtitles. The audiences understand. We did a whole 3-day mini festival on Filipinx cinema. Someone said to me, I didn't know they made movies in the Philippines. I said, you didn't know they made movies in the Philippines? They make movies everywhere in the world, and the Philippines too. They have a rich Filipinx cinema. And so we showed those films and brought those filmmakers in, educating people to to cinema and the culturally transformative power of it. And so,
absolutely,
that's really, as we think about Array and things that we're doing there, that's our mission, and it brings me a lot of joy to work on that.
I love that you talked about audience literacy, and I was worried, making Rutherford Falls, I'm so glad Sierra wasn't worried. She was like, I trust us as storytellers. I trust, that we can tell a story that's universal enough, but also is a love letter to our people, to Native people, and that Native people will understand it and will see themselves in it. And and I'll be honest, I was worried. I was like, I don't know if mainstream audiences have the literacy. I don't know if they understand our plights and our injustices and what we're facing, and if they will be able to see themselves in this story. And I do think that it is challenging, that a little bit is challenging mainstream audiences, specifically white audiences and liberal white audiences.
Well, what are you hearing as feedback?
I mostly positive reviews, and and what I'm hearing is a lot of Native people saying, I see myself. I see us. I can't believe I see us, just this like this extraordinary experience. And I experienced it too, watching the show that I was in and helped create. I watched it and I was like, wow, I really do see us in this. And of course, but I just like didn't really put the pieces together in the creation of the show. Probably because I was just so in it at all times. I didn't really see like, wow, we really are making something that Native people can take pride in and participate in, like feel like they have some ownership over, and some, they're a part of it. I'm wondering if, one of my questions talks about the reaction from peers. What has your experience in your community around your work been like? Which reactions, whether yours or from peers, have stood out to you the most about some of your projects?
Yeah, no, I mean, those are the reactions to the work is what is really my fuel these days. I have to admit, as a young filmmaker, the reviews mattered and the awards mattered. And I sit here from a place of privilege, having had those things, and now they don't matter. And when I look back over the work that I've done, my times of most joy came from the community's reaction, my people's reaction. And just because awards and reviews and things were coming in didn't mean that I had any less joy in the community, but in my mind, I gave more weight to the reviews and the awards than I gave to the joy I was feeling in the community. Over the last 10 years that I've been working, that shifted. And my joy comes from people embracing the work, wrestling with the work, questioning the work, critiquing the work, applauding the work, whatever it's going to, celebrating it, than from the industry accolades. And that is, When They See Us was the first project that I didn't read any reviews. I said to myself, I'm not reading them. And I didn't read any of them. And yet all I knew was what people told me, or what people tweeted me, or what people shared with me. I have the great fortune, and you will too, it's a beautiful blessing, of people seeing you and associating you with your work and coming up to you and telling you what they think. And that is truly one of the biggest gifts of my life, that my work has catalyzed to a point that some people might know who I am in a store or in an airport and feel moved to come up to me and say, 13th really taught me something, or I love Ralph Angel and Queen Sugar, or that Aunt Vi is like my Aunt Vi, or Selma really taught me a lot, or Wrinkle in Time, I never thought I'd see a black girl fly, or whatever it is. I get the gift of people coming up to me and telling me what they want. There's no award or review that beats that. And so, so when you ask, I've never been asked that question, what kind of, response, has really resonated with you? It's anytime a stranger walks up to you and says something nice about something that came out of your brain. That's crazy. How many people get the gift of, in your life, people walk up to me almost any day that I'm outside, someone says something to me, and I just, I'm grateful for it every time. So.
Let me add to that chorus.
Have you experienced that with, you've been performing and you've been, comedian, You have to give a podcast too, right?
Yeah,
You
a
have
lot of
fans, you have people that come up, but I don't think of them as fans. You think of them as just strangers who engage with your work. It's like,
yes.
wow. How's that for you?
Yes, absolutely. The fandom, like that word doesn't make sense to me. It gives sort of a feeling of separation. There's a distance between the art and the viewer, but
Yeah.
there's something special about Rutherford Falls, and perhaps it is because it's the first of many, but where I people, Native people specifically, are it's resonating with Native people on a comedic level, which is at the core of my work, the most important part of it, that we are bringing Native joy into people's homes. I mean, the honor of being on like my aunties and my elders like screens and bringing laughter to their bodies, like that is like my, just like, that's all that's on my vision board ever. And but beyond that, to understand sort of the socio-political messages behind it, and the um that people are seeing, wow, like they're addressing our identity in a way that is meaningful, and it is it's doing the job of it's doing the job of educating without spoon feeding. It's, and I think that sort of is like the brilliance of your work, is that we're learning, but we're not in a classroom. It doesn't feel like work. It's just it's absorbing new knowledge and
It's true.
inheriting it.
Rutherford Falls is doing what some of the early Black television did decades ago. Many people who are watching don't know Black people personally. You're talking 60s, in the 60s.
Hmm.
Some of the early, no, when you see Sidney Poitier in a film, he's probably the closest you've been to watching Black life unfold in front of you, because you've never been in a Black house and you don't really talk to Black people. They may work for you, they may work around you, but they're not fully formed human beings. When you really think about it, Rutherford Falls is, people in it are probably the only Native people that they're engaging with in a day-to-day way. I mean, that's crazy to say,
Yeah.
but the majority of people watching that don't know Native
Yeah.
people. Can't name one, can't tell you much about it, and so in that way, it is culturally transformative. In
Yeah.
that way, it's doing even more than bringing laughter to the body. I love the way you say that. That sounds so cool. But it's bringing that knowledge that you talk about. It's bringing history. It's bringing legacy, and not even the big stuff. It's bringing just like, oh, that's a Native. Oh, Native people go to work in an office.
Yeah, a
Native
Native
people,
father is arguing with his Native daughter, like
yeah,
this moment.
like a real father and daughter. Like they have real feelings and real houses and real
Yes.
jobs, and what? How can it be? I mean, it's crazy, but that's the power of television, right? And film.
Oh gosh.
Crazy.
Um, it's just, oh man, I love it, and I just am so excited about this moment. It's so fun. So I'm really excited about Sovereign. I can't wait to hear more about Bird, Sydney, and Shaz, and your newest project, Sovereign. It's a Native family drama produced by Array, which I believe is the perfect collaboration. How did you get interested in bringing this story to network television? And will you be pulling storytelling techniques from your other dramatic series for that?
Yes. Well, I reached out to Bird and said, I have an idea. Is it silly? I said, why are there no Native dramas on TV? And what if we made something that was kind of soapy, right? Because my intention is for it to be widely seen. And through
Yes.
it, similar to Queen Sugar, you're teaching as you're in there. You know, romance, breakups, betrayals, all the good stuff of a juicy, soapy family melodrama. But also, they're all native. And oh, wow, they do. Wow, you're learning about water rights and you're learning about these things. And just because it's in the fabric of the show, because they are native and they live in a world where there are other native people. And so could we kind of use the Queen Sugar model where we have all these things we want to say about blackness and social justice and history and legacy and the future, and we wrap it in this family melodrama? I said, could it work for a native family? I said, I have an idea that on Queen Sugar, it is a sugarcane land, right? It's a sugarcane farm. And on this, I was thinking, what if the family business, like you had a brother and a sister, and the brother is very connected. They're both very connected to the land, but the brother is very rooted in traditional ways, and the sister is saying, we need to move with the times for the survival of our tribe. Both of them are deeply, deeply feeling people about the future of their tribe, but they have different ways about the way that they want to go about it. And so I presented that to him and he thought that could work. And then I said, well, I can write this in a heartbeat, but it won't be right. This needs to have native writers and native directors and native producers. I'm just here to give whatever I can give to move it forward. That's the idea. Do you all want to take that and run with it, and we'll produce it? And so we brought on Sydney, we brought on Shaz, and love them both. And they were so passionate about it. They wrote their asses off. We collaborated on it. They wrote a beautiful script, and it sold, pretty quickly. And so now we're in the space now of just the further development, and really waiting to hear back from NBC Peacock as to if they want to move it forward.
Well, I did go ahead and bead a little peacock pin for Peacock, and I posted it to my Instagram, and I tagged Peacock. So let's hope that they see that as a form of appreciation, not butt kissing. That's not what it is.
No. But a nod of acknowledgement.
Acknowledgement.
Well done, I say to them. Well done. Well done.
Ava, I believe we've run out of time, but I want to say Lila Pilamayaye. So thank you so much for having this conversation with me. It has been such a pleasure to just meet you and be in conversation with you. I want to thank the United Indians of all tribes and for hosting this conversation. It's just been so meaningful to me, and I hope our paths cross again.
I do too, and they will. We'll make it so in person one day soon.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both so much for taking the time to join us today and to share your lens and your experiences with all of us, and for taking the time to talk about real connections and the real experiences that the ways that both of you are reclaiming the real narratives of our community. That is so, I can't say thank you enough for all of that. I appreciate the honest conversation of how each of you are challenging those barriers set to decenter each of our communities. And the emotion and passion that both of you conveyed is so beautiful. And both of you embody our theme in such an amazing way that we are still here. So thank you so much for joining us, and that we stand together, and that we're pushing back together, and that our communities are healing together through this common effort for that justice and visibility. So thank you so much for everything that both of you are doing, and the healing work that you're both doing for our communities and for so many. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to say thank you to our sponsors, to our top sponsors, Amazon and Vulcan, for supporting our 2021 Native Life in the City Gala for United Indians of All Tribes Foundation. Thank you everyone for joining us. And I thank you both so much. I'm just excited that both I got to be here with both of you.
Me
Thank
too.
you. Have a good day. Good night. Bye.